Picture this. You're standing right over a storm drain, and you fumble your hardware wallet. It slips right through your fingers. Boom! Heart stops. Time literally slows down. You realize your entire digital net worth is hanging by a single, terrifying thread. Well, welcome to this Forge College Explainer. Today we are tackling that exact horrible nightmare. In our previous lesson, Network Configuration Fundamentals, we laid down the plumbing for our decentralized apps. Now, as we continue our journey through the Applied Solidity development track, specifically looking at designing smart wallet patterns for enhanced usability, we're going to focus on how to actually safeguard the assets flowing through those pipes. We're talking about multisig and social recovery patterns. Basically, we're going to learn how to design smart wallets that protect users from their own butterfingers without making the wallet a total nightmare to use.
So, now that we're sufficiently terrified of losing our crypto, let's quickly look at the roadmap. We'll start with the single key problem, then move into setting the right threshold. After that, we'll meet the multisig squad, design the signing flow, look at guardians and social recovery, and finally, wrap up the wallet. Simple as that.
All right, part 1. The single key problem. A precarious vault.
Let's confront the elephant in the room here. When one private key controls everything, losing that key means, well, losing absolutely everything. If your system design relies entirely on a user never making a single mistake, you are setting them up for a massive failure. We absolutely need a better architectural foundation, and that's where multi-signature comes in. I actually like to think of this using a classic heist movie metaphor. Picture a massive, totally impenetrable underground bank vault. To get that main door open, you don't just use one key, no way. You need the demolition expert, the hacker, and the mastermind to all insert their independent keys and turn them at the exact same time. If one of them gets caught, or, just forgets their key at home, the vault stays completely shut. Multisig basically takes that heist movie logic and puts it right on the blockchain. It requires multiple independent cryptographic signatures before a sensitive transaction can actually execute.
Moving on to part 2. Setting the right threshold. Security versus usability.
So you might be wondering, how many keys do we actually need to open our vault? Well, this brings us to a massive design trade-off. We have to balance maximum security with, actual human-friendly usability. Looking at the options, a one-of-one setup is instant and highly usable. It's great for a low-value personal hot wallet, but the security risk is just immense. Now, move up to a 2-of-3 setup, and you hit a really nice sweet spot for small teams. It perfectly balances redundancy with low friction. Then you've got 3-of-5, which is absolutely fantastic for an organization's treasury because it's incredibly strong against a single compromise. And finally, let's look at the N-of-N threshold. Sure, requiring 5 out of 5 people to agree on a transaction is a fortress of high integrity, but let's be real for a second. Good luck ever getting 5 people to simply reply to an email on time, let alone coordinate a complex on-chain transaction. The friction there is massive. You really have to select the threshold that perfectly matches your user's specific use case.
Section 3. Meet the multisig squad, roles and responsibilities.
You see, it's not just about raw numbers and thresholds. It's really about who holds the keys and what they're actually allowed to do. By separating responsibilities, we drastically change the user interface surface, and we massively improve safety. We generally divide our squad into 3 distinct roles. First up, the owners. These are your regular, day-to-day signers whose signatures actually move the funds. Next, we have the managers. Now, they can draft and propose actions like submitting an invoice for payment, but they cannot execute it alone. And finally, the guardians. These are your cold storage backups. Your lawyers, maybe your most trusted friends. Guardians are held in reserve strictly for absolute emergencies. And this separation is totally vital for your UI design. Think about it. Guardians shouldn't be getting annoying push notifications for a routine $50 gas top-up. And when a manager drafts the payment, the UI needs to clearly label it as a draft that's just awaiting owner approval.
All right, part 4. Designing the signing flow, the UX journey. So how do we make this complex cryptographic dance feel completely natural to the user? We do it by breaking the process down into a super clear 3-step UX path. Step 1 is proposal submission. This is where a manager creates a draft. The UI here needs to be crystal clear about the intent, showing the amount, the recipient, and the metadata. Step 2 is signature collection. This is where the owners step in. Your UI should display a pending queue, maybe a nice horizontal stepper, showing exactly whose signatures are still required to actually hit that threshold. And step 3 is final execution. Once the threshold is finally met, anyone can trigger the final confirmation. At this point, the UI should display the full provenance, basically a transparent record of exactly who signed and exactly when.
Now, the absolutely crucial point here is how you present this information to the signer.
This brings us to a brilliant concept called progressive consent. Instead of just dumping a massive wall of raw hex data and complex warnings on the poor user all at once, you reveal only the most immediate relevant choices first. Something simple, like your signature will count as one of 3 required approvals. That simple, plain language text completely prevents decision paralysis. It tells the owner exactly what is happening, what their role is in the specific moment, and what needs to happen next, without overwhelming them with the whole shebang.
And you know, this brilliantly illustrates how deeply UX design is tied to smart contract development. If we peek under the hood of the Solidity code, these beautiful front-end UI states map directly to underlying primitives. When a user interacts with the UI in step 1, they're actually calling the submit transaction function, which generates that on-chain draft state. As owners review and click approve, they are calling the confirm transaction function, which increments the mapping, updates our UI's pending queue, and completely guarantees no one can double sign. Finally, the execute transaction function fires when the threshold is hit, triggering the actual state change. So, your UI is really simply a mirror, reflecting these exact contract functions in friendly human-readable terms.
Section 5. Guardians and Social Recovery. Rescuing the Vault.
Okay, but even with the best UX in the world, what happens when an owner inevitably drops their hardware wallet down a storm drain? Well, the vault is stuck, and this is exactly where we trigger our social recovery protocols. You generally have 2 models to choose from here, and the trade-off is pretty fascinating. First, there's immediate guardian rotation. In this setup, if a key is lost, the designated guardians instantly vote. The moment they reach their own threshold, the lost owner's address is swapped for a new one. The convenience here is amazing. You're back in action immediately. But the risk? Well, if your guardians collude, they can instantly hijack the entire wallet. Contrast that with time-locked recovery. In this model, the guardians vote, but the change does not happen instantly. It activates a built-in delay window, say 72 hours. This gives the original owners time to actually notice the recovery attempt, dispute it, and cancel it if it's malicious. So it sacrifices that immediate convenience for a really massive upgrade in safety.
Finally, Section 6. Wrapping up the wallet. The big picture.
Let's bring all these concepts together to finalize our smart wallet design framework. Here are your absolute core takeaways. First, make everything unambiguous. The user should literally never have to guess who can act, what the threshold is, or when funds will move. Second, definitely use progressive consent. Guide your user through the pending queues step by step to keep the interface pristine and lower that cognitive load. And finally, treat social recovery as a highly visible policy. In your UI, outline the delays, the required guardian approvals, and the cancellation windows right up front. That way, users understand their safety net way before they ever actually need to use it. Clarity here is absolutely paramount.
I want to leave you with this somewhat provocative thought. Treat social recovery as a policy instrument, not a magic button. You see, social recovery isn't just some technical undo feature. It is a governance process between real human beings, and your smart wallet design needs to reflect that reality. So, what does this all mean for you? Your next step is to take these exact flows, your proposals, your queues, your recovery dialogues, and put them in front of real people for usability testing, because that is how you find out if your heist crew actually knows how to turn the keys. Anyway, thank you so much for joining this Forge College Explainer. I really hope this sparked some cool ideas for your own builds. Make sure to visit forge.college to learn more about this subject, dive way deeper into applied Solidity development, and explore a bunch of other awesome Web3 related topics. See you next time.